All right, welcome in. I'm the Kodiak, and today I'm here to talk about, is Sean Payton right with what he said about our wide receiver room? Are we fine at the position? So I just want to say a couple things. First of all, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already. You can always wait until the end. Hopefully I'll have earned it. My comment question of the day is, should the Broncos trade for Cooper Kupp? And I go back and forth about this, but ultimately I don't think the cap hit is worth what they would have to, stomach. So yeah, I'm off the Cooper Kupp train for now, but I understand the people that want him. Now, follow me on Twitter if you like what I have to say on here at Cardiac Broncos. Let's dive right into it. So, the interview at Super Bowl weekend on Radio Row with Kay Adams, it was a really, really good interview. Highly recommend you guys check that out. I'm not going to play anything just because I don't want to get struck for copyright or anything like that. But there were a couple things that I thought were notable, even beyond just the wide receiver comment. He talked about how excited he was to be back in New Orleans, and he talked about, how he had made memories in the city for 15, 16 years, anytime you're there for that long, yada, yada, yada. But strictly football now, he expressed how excited he was that Bowen, the team, shattered expectations going into the year. And that was a really, really cool thing. It was really cool to hear about because a lot of the outlets, when the Broncos were, in training camp this year, they had the Broncos as the worst roster in the NFL. And they were talking about how this team was untalented and all that. And hey, I wasn't immune to making those comments as well. But he used that. It seemed like the team used that as motivation. And a lot of times, during their weekly install, he would, motivate them further by showcasing those comments on screen during their weekly meetings or whatever. But as far as Bo Nix, they really, really were happy with what he did this past year. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him, especially for a franchise that was absolutely cursed when it came to the quarterback position. The fact that we found this dude, it just rains water. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, really cool gesture by Sean Payton. He paid for the Chiefs wide receivers dinner when the bill was, I think, $1,900, he said. And considering there were 8 of them, that's not bad at all. So, classy gesture for him there. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's deep-rooted hatred between the Broncos and the Chiefs, even though it hasn't really been a rivalry. We've just been getting smoked by them over the past, handful of years or whatever. But, it was a cool gesture regardless of division rival or not. Now, the number one thing that he talked about is he said that you can sort your offseason into needs, wants, and musts. So, Sean Payton expressed the number one priority, a must, to find the joker at the running back or tight end position. Now, what confuses me is Sean Payton, when he talks to Kay Adams, he does not hold back or anything. He is very transparent, and it seems like a lot of other NFL players are too. And I guess that becomes with Kay Adams being more of a, how do I put this? More of a human, having more of a human element in her interviews rather than just a guy holding a microphone, holding a phone and having a lanyard sitting across from Sean Payton while he's doing his press conferences. But in that press conference, yeah, he talked about the need to find a joker at the running back or tight end position and be aggressive in doing so. And Sean Payton, the thing that I really want to harp on in this video is he said, we're stronger at wide receiver than some would think. And is he right with that? I mean, listen, I don't think he's wrong, but let's talk about what that means. So I think it just basically means something along the lines of, it would be nice to add another dude, but we're not going to break the bank for T. Higgins. We're not going to eat Cooper Kupp's salary or whatever. And listen, our wide receivers as a whole, I would say that they did not play well this year. There were multitudes of issues for this. All the issues going on with the offensive ecosystem, that trickled down to our wide receivers as well, despite the fact that they were raw. No run game, no intermediate pass game. And yeah, you could say that they were a part of that as well. But when defenses don't have to respect a lot of areas of running a modern NFL offense, it makes it a lot easier for them. And, early in the year, it was absolutely laughable what this unit was providing. But I think down the stretch, they were a big reason why they made the playoffs. They did get better, and that's just what's going to happen when your unit is relying on 3 or 4 year 1, year 2 guys to carry the bulk of the work, along with a 7-year veteran in Courtland Sutton. But, I don't think Sean Payton was entirely wrong with giving this group a vote of confidence and saying, listen, we have Vele, we have Franklin, we have Mims. He mentioned all 3 of those dudes in that interview. And listen, just because he says that does not mean that we won't add. It gave off the vibe of, well, that would be nice to have, but once again, we're not breaking the bank. They're probably not going to use a round 1 pick on a receiver. And that matters for guys like T. Higgins, Cooper Kupp, as I alluded to. They also didn't mention the draft because Kay Adams, when she was talking about this, she was like, I think your number one priority this offseason is going to be finding a veteran, stable wide receiver. And then Sean Payton was like, not really. So the discussion was strictly about like free agent wide receivers. They didn't mention anything about like guys in the draft or rounds 2 or 3. We typically do invest in the wide receiver position. You know, under Sean Payton and George Payton, like Marvin Mims was the number one dude off their 2023. Remember, he was the first dude we took in that draft. So yeah, they also traded up for Troy Franklin, and considering how limited capital they had, that was a pretty substantial investment, even though he was a round 4 guy. But listen, we need young talent at wide receiver, not expensive talent. And I couldn't really fit this anywhere else in my notes, but I just really hope that Lil Jordan Humphrey does not come back this year. If Lil Jordan Humphrey's talent matched his effort, he would be as good as Jamar Chase. Unfortunately, he just made way too many mistakes this year. I don't care that he was a good blocking wide receiver. I don't care that he was a high effort dude. Of course, that's going to give you some leeway and give you a career, especially when Sean Payton is your coach. But yeah, no, I just don't want it to happen. Too many mistakes. Like, it felt like every year, every game during the middle of this year, it was like, well, weekly Lil Jordan Humphrey backbreaking penalty, weekly Lil Jordan Humphrey drop into another dude's hands, weekly Lil Jordan Humphrey fumble. So yeah, I'm good on that. Now, Courtland Sutton, I'm here to now talk about our wide receivers. Obviously, he is our number one. He is our big-bodied outside X. Even if he is inconsistent down to down, he has given us some very, very high-level play at the wide receiver 1 spot, despite all the other problems on our offense the past 2 years. But he will be 30 in October. And we need a legit succession plan in place for when he does decide to move on. Because, you know, he has the kind of game that will not age spectacularly. Because he's not like a high-end separator type. Like, yeah, he can separate. But when I think about what he offers, he's like a contested catch, middle of the field, jump ball, like make the tough catch wide receiver. And that's absolutely fantastic. But he's not like a smoke a dude off the line, have an insane release sort of guy. And a lot of Broncos fans were really, I guess, vocal, even in the middle of the year, that, you know, a 3rd-round pick for the hypothetical Steelers, Ayuk, 49ers swap, that was a 3-teamer, would have provided more to our team value-wise than had we stayed the course with Courtland Sutton. And I just don't agree with that at all. Like, even if Courtland Sutton is going to be, like, you know, a guy for the next 1 or 2 years, he just matters so much to a rookie quarterback. He matters so much to this offense. Like, I don't even want to know what our offenses would have looked like the past 2 years without him. And we should plan on him being a big part of the offense in 2025 again. So his final stats in 2024 were 80 receptions, 1,081 yards, and 8 touchdowns. First 1,000-yard rusher or receiver since Philip Lindsay in 2019. So, yeah, Courtland Sutton, once again, we should plan on him being back next year and plan on him being a big part of the offense again. Like, he's not going anywhere. Now, Marvin Mims, this was a guy who was a big part of the dudes that took really big steps for us in 2024. Obviously, we had Benito, we had Zach Allen, we had Riley Moss, but it was really, really cool to see a dude on the offensive side of the ball take a huge step forward as well. Now, he was on his way to being a heavy disappointment as a pure wide receiver. I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, in 2023, he was an all-pro kick returner. And to that, I say, yes, of course. But a second-round wide receiver, especially on a team that was absolutely bare with draft capital like we were in 2023, and a guy we traded up for. Remember, we didn't have a second-round pick, so we traded up to get him, and he was our first pick of that draft, and we only had 5 picks of that whole draft. Like, a guy like that should be a focal part of your offense. He should not be struggling to outsnap Lil Jordan Humphrey or Brandon Johnson or whatever it was in 2023. But something had clicked this past year. It seemed like the first half of this year, it was more of the same. It was more of the frustrations that we had seen, during his rookie year. But he finally had some legit production. Like, I think he ended the year with 500 yards and I think 7 or 8 touchdowns. And considering he offered basically nothing as a wide receiver in the first half of the year, that is absolutely fantastic. Now, Sean Payton alluded to needing to create return opportunities on the offensive side of the ball because he's so good with the ball in his hands and he's so good at making dudes miss. And, that was something we, as Broncos fans, had been asking for a year and a half because he started out so strong. I remember the second game of his career against Washington, he hit those 2 deep balls. Week 3 against Miami, when we got absolutely boat raced and gave up 70 points, he was like the only bright spot of that day. And it seemed like he had kind of fallen out of favor with the team and with the staff uh, at that certain point after that year, after that had happened. And he was pretty much strictly a special teams dude. But we do not have the year we had this past year without him. Like, we don't claw back against the Bengals without him catching that deep ball and without him catching that Hail Mary as well in the same quarter, I might add. He just added so much to this team. I'm really excited for his future. Now, one thing I do really want to see, which I don't know if this is going to happen, because however you come into the NFL as a skill position dude is primarily how you will be throughout your career. I want to see a legit route game. I want to see him, be able to run over the intermediate part of the field. I don't know if that's going to happen because, once again, that's just something that, it's typically not common for wide receivers to switch their play style, even though you can develop certain skills that you may not have had in the college game. That's just not his play style. So I'm not expecting it, but overall, really happy with Marvin Mims. Once again, really excited for his future. He's a fan favorite in Denver. Absolutely bleeds orange and blue. Happy with him. Now, Troy Franklin, I already did a video about him, and I highly recommend you check that out, but I was disappointed by his rookie year. Because he is not your typical day 3 wide receiver. I said that probably like 5 times during that video, and I'm going to say it again here. That being said, this coaching staff, we've seen so many guys that we didn't think could progress any further than they have, and they've been able to elevate them to new heights, and I see no reason why Troy Franklin in year 2 should not fit that mold as well. Let the coaching staff develop him. Let them find him a role. And it's worth mentioning that his production is on par for rookie seasons from round 4 and day 3 wide receivers. Now, he needs to improve his ball tracking. I don't understand how that was so poor, even with his college quarterback that he played with for 2 years. His play strength just wasn't that good as well, and he needs to trust his hands. And I think, it's hard to come away with watching him at Oregon and this past year and not being concerned by the fact that he doesn't really seem to trust his hands. Now, I like that he seemed to do a good job against zone, and he did do a solid job against finding the middle of the field soft spots, but I don't think we were using him in the wrong role or anything like that. He took 66% of his snaps on the boundary and 34% inside. And if you look exactly at what the pre-draft film guys were saying, that they said that his role would be a number 2 wide receiver as an X, or no, not as an X, but as an outside guy in a primarily vertical offense. And hey, that's exactly what we were doing this past year. Now, he's basically either a vertical or screen guy, at least in this very juncture, but I was very encouraged by the fact that, whenever we did give him the chance to run over the middle of the field, he seemed to do a pretty good job with that as well. So yeah, stay the course with Franklin. It's okay to, question his long-term future, but immediate future, we got to give him a shot. Now, Devaughn Vele, it's nice that the Broncos found a zone-beating slot wide receiver, especially in the 7th round of the draft, because when you take a wide receiver in the 7th round of the draft, you don't really expect them to contribute on anything besides maybe special teams or anything like that. But he does have his limitations within his game. He's not a great man beater. He has a very limited route tree. But I'm pretty happy with what he saw from him. I was not expecting anything from him when we took him this past year, but the fact that they were able to find, a substantial role for him, it was pretty cool. I will say in the past month of the year, he weirdly seemed to, not get that much volume. He weirdly seemed to be kind of phased out in the offense. And I think that that's a big reason why we went 3 and out so much in the back half of the year. 40% of our drives in the last month of the year ended up in a 3 and out, which was second worst in the NFL, only behind the Giants. But once again, that's a big problem with everything else. And I think had we targeted Vele a little more in those situations, we would have fared a lot better. Now, he's 27 years old. What other skills can he develop at this point in his career? I'm not entirely sure. That'll be up to the coaching staff to determine. But I think he's basically another Tim Patrick, which, once again, not a bad thing at all. Tim Patrick was primarily an outside guy, and Devaughn Vele is mainly a slot, but they can both make the tough catch. They were both late risers. They both came into the NFL as older rookies. They were both from San Diego. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities here, and I think Vele is our next Tim Patrick, and I just really hope that he takes a step up next year as well. I would give him another full season of him being a slot wide receiver before making a judgment on his immediate future. Is he a locked and load starter on our team in 2026? I don't think so, but I would give him another full season of, potentially being able to make an impact before making that sort of judgment. Like, he's definitely earned his right to and earned his keep for 2025. So there's another guy that we have on our roster. He's one of only 2 guys that we have signed to reserve and or whatever that list is called, reserve and injury contracts or whatever it is in the offseason. But A.T. Perry, is he the Broncos succession plan at true X post Courtland Sutton? Is this the answer? Is it currently on their roster? And he seemed to show flashes in 2023 during his rookie year. And then he got hurt. And then he seemed to fall out of favor with the Saints coaching staff in a hurry, which that's not really surprising to me, considering, Dennis Allen, the head coach, absolutely went off on rookies and year 2 guys who were often injured, like Kendre Miller. He basically completely eviscerated him in front of the whole media and was like, yeah, this guy's a scrub. I haven't seen him. Like, it's hard to be excited about a guy when he's not available. So, yeah, Saints beat writers didn't say anything about him, like, being problematic or anything like that, but that the head coach, Dennis Allen, just didn't like him. So that's really weird. But unfortunately for A.T. Perry, low investment guys, they don't deter teams from adding a dude. Like, he was literally a waiver claim. So if they find their guy in round 2 or round 3 of the draft, they're not going to shy away from taking him at all. Now, overall thoughts, I want the Broncos to add at least one more guy at wide receiver, preferably in the draft. But I wouldn't be panicking if they didn't, because once again, we do have a lot of youth at the position. And sure, are they on unstable ground? Yes. But, the long-term questions, they're prevalent, sure. But it's adequate. It's adequate for 2025. And I think an overall healthier offensive ecosystem, one where we have a run game, one where we have a joker that Sean Payton really wants, is going to do wonders for this team. And I think it's going to make everybody play better. Now, overall, I'm expecting an overall 50-50 balance on offensive and defensive investment this upcoming offseason, because our needs are so obvious. Like, yeah, we need a running back and tight end primarily, because those cupboards are really bare as far as what we have at those positions. But we also need inside linebacker. We need safety as well. So, yeah. And we also need a nose tackle. So, yeah. Because our needs are so obvious, I don't expect wide receivers to be high up on the totem pole because of how bad we are at those other positions that I just named. But overall, once again, stay the course with this wide receiver room, at least for now. Add one more dude, maybe, and that's how I feel. So Sean Payton, he was not wrong with giving this group a vote of confidence, and with saying that, a wide receiver is not a, burning need for the Broncos. So yeah, that does it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Mile high salute.